comfortable with? Like, would you like me to continue in English or do you want me to take this course in Hindi? What do you want?
Anything is fine, sir.
Anything is fine. Okay. So if I continue in English, that's okay with everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay, good. So in this course, okay, there isn't much theory. Like in your ethical hacking, you had theory and practical mix of both. But in penetration testing, we usually do not have much theory. There's just the introductory session or today's session, which will have some theory. And I'll be talking about penetration testing, the different steps or the phases involved in it. And after that, we'll switch to the practical stuff. Now,
Sir,
for
what is your name?
uh, my name, I think the counselor must have talked to you regarding your classes from how many days have they told you per week?
For weekdays means Monday to
Monday to
Friday.
Friday, right? Okay, okay,
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
correct. So I just, know, I just asked because there should be no confusion to you as well.
Okay.
And so this timing is fine for you guys, 10 to 12, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
sir. Okay, but
Okay, so I'm going to start talking about the theoretical part and I'll be sharing my screen now. So just a moment. Okay, is this visible to you guys? I've shared the screen.
Yes, sir.
yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, okay, good. So when we talk about penetration testing, okay, there are different phases involved in it. Okay, different steps, just like you might have seen in ethical hacking as well, the same thing,
Yes.
that there are different steps that we follow, and these steps are known as phases. So phases of penetration testing. So the first thing is information gathering, where you're trying to get as much data, as much information about your target. And your target could be either an organization, it could be a website in case of web application penetration testing or WAPT. It could be an organization, could be an internal network of a company. So you could have different kinds of targets here, and depending on that, you're going to try and gather as much information as you can about them in the first phase. Then you have the next phase, which is reconnaissance. Here, what you do is you build upon the information that you have gathered already, and you try to get into even more specifics, and the more technical details are what you try to focus on. So let's say you found some IP addresses in your information gathering phase. Now what you do is you try to scan those IP addresses, find as much information as you can about those networks or the devices that you can find on those networks. And you can run different kinds of scans there, find vulnerabilities in those
Sir,
devices. Yes.
sir, can you hold for 1 minute, sir? I will be back. Only 1 minute.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Yes, sir, we can continue.
Okay. Now, as I was talking about, in reconnaissance, you're trying to focus on more technical details. You find vulnerabilities within your target systems, and you can use this information in further phases of your penetration test. Now, after you have done all of that, at the end of the second phase, you have all the information that you require to actually exploit any vulnerabilities that you found or actually hack into the system, which is what you do in the third phase, access or exploitation. So now you have gathered all the information that you can, you have found out everything that you wanted to, and you use this information now to hack into the system. Now, this could be a vulnerability that you found within a service, this could be something you found on the website, whatever you found, whatever attack vector you discovered, you now utilize that to hack into that system. Now you are in, you are onto that system, you are within the network or whatever resource you are trying to hack. It's not just one system, it could be a network as well. Now whatever you do after this comes under post exploitation. You try to get stored browser passwords, you try to steal some information from within the system, you try to get some files. Whatever you do after you have gained access is post exploitation. So you've exploited, and after that whatever you do, that is, that's why it's called post exploitation. Now in a penetration test, okay, let's say a client has hired you to perform a penetration test. So you will go through the entire process, you will find out every vulnerability that you could, you'll see all the security flaws, the issues that you found within that system. But
Mm.
your client is not going to be seeing all of this. He's not going to be sitting beside you while you're conducting your entire operation.
Right.
What your client gets is a report in which you will document everything that you did, and you will submit that report to the client. To the client, that is the only thing that they are going to receive. The rest of the process you are doing that, but all that the client sees is your report. So reporting is also a very important task, I would say, in terms of penetration testing, because even if you conduct a good penetration test, you have been very thorough, but your
Mm.
report is not good, then to the client it will seem like you've done a bad job.
Okay.
So your reporting needs to be good. Okay, and you need to be able to describe everything that you did properly,
Mm.
so that someone who is reading through it can understand, okay, this is the issue, and what can be done to fix that issue, how you can reproduce that issue if you want to check. All of that should be mentioned in the report.
Okay.
Finishing up final task, okay, this I'll discuss in a while. Let's take a look at these different phases. Now there are different types of testings as well. Okay, let me talk about these three first: vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, and policy auditing. Now, does anyone know about the difference between vulnerability assessment and penetration testing? Are you aware of that?
I think vulnerability assessment is a thing like finding the vulnerabilities or
Mhm.
flaw
Yeah,
inside the system. And
Okay.
in
yeah,
penetration
pen
testing,
testing
we
means
use these flaws to
yeah, we use this
like what harm
vulnerabilities
we
and
can someone can put on you, like uh, how what is the like severity of these vulnerabilities. If someone find this vulnerability and they have some malicious intention, then how much loss you will be bear with these vulnerabilities.
Actually, see, the difference is with a vulnerability assessment, the main difference that comes is you are just trying to figure out the vulnerabilities that exist. Okay, and you'll of course detail that, like what vulnerability exists, how severe this is, all of that will be done in vulnerability assessment. But in penetration testing, you are not just going to find the vulnerabilities, you are also going to exploit them.
Yeah.
So, okay, in a vulnerability assessment, you're just going to see, okay, these are the vulnerabilities that exist within my target. But you're not going to actively use those to hack into a system.
Hmm.
For penetration testing, you're going to exploit those vulnerabilities. You're going to take advantage of those vulnerabilities to get into your target system. So, penetration testing is, you could say, a more in depth test than a vulnerability assessment. And consequently, of course, it takes more time because you have to do more work in this case. So, is this clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
At any point, okay, throughout this course, if you have any questions, any doubts, please feel free to ask. Okay. Don't hesitate to ask if you have anything that might not be clear the first time around. So, feel free to ask anything that you might think is not clear in the first. Now, the last thing is security policy auditing. So, what is this? Like, let's say there is an organization, they have certain security policies that they implement in order to protect their assets and their resources. But, just having a security policy and implementing it well are different things. So, security policy audit tries to see how well your security policies are being implemented, whether your employees are following the security policies or not, and if there are any issues with the policies themselves. So, all of that comes under security policy auditing, which is quite different from the other two things that I mentioned here.
Okay.
Okay, so that is not like your vulnerability assessment or your penetration testing. So, it's an entirely different thing. Now, the other concept that's mentioned here is external and internal tests. So, external test means that the attacker, or in the, see, a penetration test tries to simulate an attack. Okay, so as a tester, you're trying to see that if a hacker were to try to get onto this network or attack this system, then what kind of information would they find?
Okay.
So that is, okay, you are simulating an actual attack on a system as a penetration tester. Now, an external test considers the situation where an attacker or a penetration tester is sitting outside of the network that he's trying to attack. So let's say if I'm sitting remotely, sorry, not remotely, I'm sitting at home and I'm trying to access a network remotely, and I'm not a part of that network. Okay, I'm outside, far away, and I'm trying to remotely access that or remotely hack into that. So that would be an example of an external test, that I'm not somewhere within the network, I'm outside, which is the case with a lot of attacks, that the attackers are not inside the network itself, but they are somewhere outside. And another case is internal testing. So The network that is being tested, your tester or your attacker will be present inside that network. So as a penetration tester, if you're doing an internal pen test, then the device or the network that you're going to try to infiltrate, the systems that you try to attack, you will be on the same network as those systems. So that, now it does reduce some of your work. Now, can anyone tell me how internal testing is helpful or why it is done?
Don't know, sir.
No. Okay, no worries. See, a lot of attacks that happen, a lot of major data breaches that have occurred in the past few years,
Yeah.
there has been some internal factor involved in that. There has been some, there are some people involved on the inside who are part of the attack. So let's say there is a disgruntled employee. Okay, he has some grudge against the company, so he'll try to help the attackers from the inside. Since he's an employee, he has access to the company's network already. He's already inside that network.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so this kind of situation is also known as an insider attack, because it is done by someone on the inside. So an internal test tries to mimic such a situation where someone on the inside might be trying to attack a system. So that is an internal test. So is this clear? This internal and external, the difference between these two?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Good. Let's move on. Okay. Now there's a little bit of
Sir,
description.
one
Yes.
second. Can you go to last slide?
Yes.
What is PCA?
Inside of local network PCI. Okay. I'm not really sure why that is mentioned here, but it's not really relevant. It's just trying to say that is inside your local network, nothing else. Now, information gathering. So this is talking about the different phases that we discussed. So it's just a little bit of in depth. Okay, not really in depth, but a little bit of description about those phases. So the kind of information that you gather in this phases, like who is your client, what kind of information do they have, and most importantly, what kind of information is made public, okay, by your client. In this case, your client is your target, because you are trying to attack their systems. So you will try to find out what kind of information about their network or their systems is available publicly or over the internet. Who is their ISP? Now this might not be very relevant, but okay, still, if you're trying to gather information, like I mentioned, try to find whatever you can, because this information could be helpful in social engineering. What type of business are they in? So what kind of work do they do? Who works there? The employees who work there. Again, this should also be helpful, let's say, in password cracking, or again with social engineering. How many people do they employ? So size of the company can also be useful. And now a few tools are mentioned. Now keep in mind, this is not a very exhaustive list. It does not mention everything, just a few tools. So Google dorking. Now Google dorking is a method of using some special search operators in Google, so you can get very refined results, and it becomes easier to search for some particular aspect, like some particular file type or some particular kind of URL. If you want to search that, then you can use Google dorking. Then you have social media websites. Now on social media, a lot of people have a tendency to post, you know way too much stuff online on social media. So if you are trying to gather information about an organization, you could try to look at their employees' social media accounts, because if someone has shared something that they should not have, you know, let's say some internal details or something that should stay away from, a publicly available resource, then that information could be useful for you as an attacker, as someone who's trying to get into the network. Or another situation is you could find more information which is relevant to that employee, and you could try to get even more information from them through social engineering. And there is also another aspect which I just discussed. So, can anyone tell me what that is? Something else that you can figure out through social media.
Facebook, Twitter,
Hmm?
Facebook, Twitter.
No, so websites are fine. I'm saying what is another aspect that you can figure out through social media that could help you in such an attack.
Social engineering.
Social engineering, I already mentioned. See, another thing that you could try to figure out is I talked about insider attacks just a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you look at employees' social media, you might try to see, or you might find someone who is, having some grudge against the company based on the kind of information they post on their social media page or profile. And using that, you could try to contact this person for an insider attack. But again, you have to be careful in that case, because not everyone is so against
Or,
the company that they'll jump at this chance. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that you can figure out through social media. So that is a very good resource when we talk about information gathering. Then website scanners and whois lookups. Okay, all of this will give you some information about their websites, about their domains, and about who to contact in case of any issues with the domain. There are some, it also says there are some tools in Kali to aid in this. So for
sir,
who,
I have one doubt, sir.
yes, yes.
Sir, when we are doing the internal and external testing, whether the company employees will be knowing whether we are doing pen testing, or only higher officials will be knowing we are doing pen testing.
In most cases, only a few people will know. Okay, like let's say maybe the CIS or the Chief Information Security Officer. He'll be aware of this.
Okay.
In some cases, the blue team or the people who are, the cybersecurity staff of the team, in some cases, cybersecurity staff at the company, in some cases, they'll also be knowing. That depends on what kind of situation the company wants to test in. But
Okay.
definitely, all employees are not informed about this kind of thing.
Okay.
Otherwise, your social engineering attempts, they will not be successful if everyone knows that okay, this person is trying
Yeah,
to
yeah.
hack the system, right? So, because even in an actual attack, see, it is not going to be evident that someone is an attacker. If an attacker has done a lot of, research, if they know how to get in, if they're good at social engineering, then it will not become evident to the employees that okay, this is a person who might be trying to hack into our network or might be trying to target us.
But companies are recruiting as a junior pen tester, then
Hmm.
employee will be knowing now, sir. He will do social engineering.
As a penetration tester, see, companies usually do not hire penetration testers as part of their staff. Okay,
Okay.
companies contact these other companies which provide cybersecurity services, and they say, okay, we want to hire you for conducting a penetration test in our organization.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so if you are a penetration tester, so the company employees are not going to like know you or recognize you or anything because they won't have any idea who you are. So
Okay,
in
sir.
most cases, only a few people know that a test is going to happen, because otherwise, it would kind of, let's say, the test would not appear very realistic if everyone knows about it,
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
right? Okay, so you're talking about, okay, information gathering, social engineering, of course. Now, you're all familiar with what is social engineering, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay, good. So if you are performing social engineering, you are trying to manipulate a person into giving you some information that they should not be giving out. And there are lots of ways to do that, lots of different kinds of social engineering situations, and a lot of them do not involve any tools, simply how confidently you can lie. That is social engineering. That is what social engineering is all about. Now, after information gathering, you move on to reconnaissance. So you are past the first phase now. Now, what you do is, let's say, based on the initial information that you gathered, you now know some information like the IP addresses or the network that you're trying to get into. So, one of the main things that you can do here is port scanning. So, you run scanners and try to see what ports are open on what devices within the network. You try to perform enumeration. You try to list different services that are running. Try to find out the different user accounts that may be existing on a system. Service discovery and identification. So you're trying to figure out the different kind of services, the different kind of processes that are running on any system. And that is one of the very important things that you can do, because that will help you figure out what services are running and how you can go about targeting them, how you can interact with those services, or maybe you exploit them to get into the network. You'll also be performing vulnerability scanning to figure out any vulnerabilities in any service versions, sorry, in any services that are running. Because depending on what version of a service is being used, it may be vulnerable to some kind of attack from your end.
Sir, what's the difference between enumeration and vulnerability scanning?
Enumeration and vulnerability scanning. Okay. Now see, vulnerability scanning is you're simply trying to check whether there is a vulnerability that exists in a particular service or a particular system, depending on what kind of scan you're running. I mean, if you're only scanning for a port or you're scanning the entire system, then vulnerability scanning is just you're trying to figure out the existing vulnerabilities. Enumeration is like, let's say you're trying to see, enumeration in the very simplest terms is making a list. So there is service enumeration, you're trying to make a list of services that are running on the system. Or maybe you're trying to do DNS enumeration, you're listing all the DNS info that can be found.
Okay.
Or you are trying to, let's say, perform user enumeration. So for example, you have found a particular service is running, and through that you try to figure out the different user accounts that are present on the system. Okay, so enumeration simply means making a list of things. Okay.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
And what's also mentioned is social engineering. So if you gather relevant information that you think you can use for to perform social engineering to target someone with this, then you can work on that as well in this phase. So let's say you found an employee's account on social media and you saw that this person posts a lot of information, and okay, you think that okay, I can get this person to tell me even more by asking for help and pretending to be someone else. Now that is all a part of social engineering, so you can attempt that as well in this phase. So once you've done all of this, okay, now in the next phase what you're going to do is, okay, in the next, let's talk about a few tools first before moving on to the next phase. So when we talk about scanning or port scanning, and even for enumeration, I would say the most important tool in this entire phase is Nmap. And are you familiar with Nmap? Have you had practice with this tool?
हाँ सर.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
सर उस nmap के फ्लैग्स जो होते हैं उसको किस तरह से, क्योंकि जिस टाइम पर यूज करते हैं उस टाइम पर तो मतलब देख के यूज कर लेते हैं, बट उसके फ्लैग्स को याद करने का कोई होता है क्या?
देखो याद कर आप Nmap को जो
Help.
आपको याद करना है,
नहीं
नहीं
लाइक
help
अगर जैसे इंटरव्यू के टाइम पर ऐसा पूछते कि अगर
हम्म,
आपको स्कैन करने के लिए दिया जाए और आपको
हाँ
पोर्ट्स स्कैन करने हैं, टॉप 100 पोर्ट्स को या 1000 पोर्ट्स को स्कैन करना है, उसके लिए
हम्म।
हाफ कनेक्ट स्कैन या फुल कनेक्ट स्कैन करना है उसके लिए, तो ऐसे टाइम के लिए कैसे ये याद नहीं होता एक्चुअली उस टाइम पे?
तो उसके लिए बेस्ट रहता है कि आप प्रैक्टिस करो, जितनी प्रैक्टिस करोगे ना ये
हाँ,
सब चीजें अपने आप याद रहेंगे, आपको अलग से फिर याद करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी। Nmap तो ऐसी चीज है, इनफैक्ट ये पूरा टॉपिक ही ऐसा है, एक चीज आप जितनी बार प्रैक्टिस करोगे ना उतना ही आपको वो और फिर दिमाग में बैठ जाएगी वो चीज। यू डोंट हैव टू स्पेंड टाइम इन मेमोराइजिंग दीज थिंग्स, क्योंकि Nmap ऐसे याद करने से नहीं होगा। Nmap यूज करोगे, प्रैक्टिस करोगे, अपने आप दिमाग में चीज बैठ जाएगी और इंटरव्यू में आप जाओगे फटाफट कुछ भी वो पूछेंगे बोल दोगे आराम से। उसके लिए प्रैक्टिस चाहिए, और इस कोर्स में मेरे हिसाब से तो आपकी अच्छी प्रैक्टिस होनी चाहिए। मैं तो अच्छा खासा Nmap यूज करूंगा ही, पर यह है कि जो मैं क्लास में करूंगा वो आप अपने आप प्रैक्टिस अगर करोगे तो आपको फायदा है इस चीज का। ठीक है, तो इसके लिए Nmap के लिए या इवन कोई भी टूल के लिए फेमिलियर होना है
हाँ,
तो उसके लिए आपको प्रैक्टिस जरूरी है। देखो रटने का या याद करने का कोई मतलब नहीं है यहाँ पे, उससे इवेंचुअली क्या है, आज याद करोगे कल भूल जाओगे,
हाँ,
या हो सकता है अगले महीने तक भूल जाओ, उसका फायदा नहीं है। अगर प्रैक्टिस करोगे तो आपको रटने की जरूरत ही नहीं पड़ेगी। ठीक है, तो प्रैक्टिस जितनी हो सकती है करो, वही बेस्ट तरीका है।
ओके।
ओके, so for port scanning, Nmap is the most popular tool and the most widely used tool for this, and we'll also be using it throughout this course.
ओके।
Another tool is HPing3, but a lot of functionality that Nmap offers, it does not exist in HPing3, so we don't really prefer this. I mean, you can use it if you'd like, but it's not preferred. When you have Nmap, why use this? And Netcat, okay, I wouldn't say Netcat is necessarily for port scanning. So have you used this tool, Netcat? Have you ever tried it?
हाँ सर. Reverse shell.
Reverse shell. Okay. So what do you think could be said as the main purpose of this tool? Because port scanning is not the purpose of Netcat.
मैम नेटवर्क को स्कैन मतलब इंफॉर्मेशन गैदर करने के लिए भी यूज कर सकते
इंफॉर्मेशन कैसे गैदर करोगे नेटवर्क के बारे में, मतलब क्या प्रोसेस यूज करोगे इसमें?
हैं. कमांड भूल गया सर. नेट
नहीं, कमांड कमांड नहीं पूछ रहा मैं,
हाँ. ओके.
यूजेज कैसे यूज करोगे उसको, करोगे क्या उससे? कमांड तो ठीक है, वो तो यूज करोगे आ जाएगा।
हाँ. नेटवर्क कार्ड के बारे में, मतलब इंफॉर्मेशन कौन सा नेटवर्क कार्ड यूज हो रहा है वगैरह वगैरह।
नहीं, वो आपको नेटकैट से नहीं मिलेगा। देखो, see the purpose
ओके
of netcat. Okay, let me mention it here. So, and don't confuse it with this. It's not useful for port scanning. Netscat is used, sorry, netcat is used to connect to an open port, to connect to any port that might be able to receive a connection, or to open a port to open a connection on your system. And that is the main purpose of netcat. So you can connect to a running service on another system on a port which is open and you can access it, or you can open a port on your system and wait for incoming connections from other systems. That is the main purpose of netcat.
सर, ओनली यूजिंग नेटकैट से कर सकते हैं क्या सर, जो कुछ भी आप बोले थे?
क्या चीज?
ओपन पोर्ट और क्लोज पोर्ट सिर्फ नेटकैट से कर सकते हैं, और दूसरी भी कुछ टूल्स और सेटिंग्स है?
ओपन पोर्ट्स और क्लोज पोर्ट्स से कनेक्ट तो नेटकैट तो यह कि इन जनरल है, किसी भी ओपन पोर्ट से आप कनेक्ट करने की कोशिश करोगे कर लेगा। बाकी तो क्या है, जैसे अलग अलग सर्विसेज हैं तो उनके अपने अलग अलग टूल्स हैं जो उनसे कनेक्ट कर सकते हैं। जैसे डेटाबेस है तो उसके लिए आपके पास माई एसक्यूएल है अलग से,
हाँ, वही
एचटीटीपी वेब
एग्जांपल
सर्वर,
पूछ रहा था। ओके ओके।
है ना। तो वो सर्विस डिपेंडेंट तो अलग अलग टूल्स हैं डिपेंडिंग ऑन क्या प्रोटोकॉल है, क्या एप्लीकेशन है। बट नेटकैट एक जनरल टूल है, मतलब उससे आप किसी भी तरह के ओपन पोर्ट पे कनेक्ट कर सकते हो एंड अपने
ओके
सिस्टम पे भी कनेक्शन ओपन कर सकते हो किसी भी पोर्ट पे नेटकैट से। और नेटकैट भी हम यूज़ करेंगे, ठीक है, तो उसमें थोड़ा और क्लियर हो जाएगा हाउ वी कैन मेक यूज ऑफ इट। नाउ vulnerability scanners. So now, while Nmap also has an inbuilt functionality for vulnerability scanning, but that's not going to be sufficient in a lot of cases. So we also use vulnerability scanners like OpenVAS or Nessus. There's also Metasploit, and this Armitage is just a GUI version of Metasploit. And there are web scanners, so there are specific scanners for web application or website vulnerabilities. So those scanners are different. Then you have Telnet for banner grabbing. So Telnet is a service through which you can log into another system via the command line. Again, this will all be visible to you when you scan. So you'll see, okay, Telnet is running. Maybe I'll try to connect to Telnet. Maybe I can access the system. Banner grabbing is when you're trying to find out some
version
data
number.
about, let's say, for example, there is a web server. I want to figure out what technology is being used, like whether there is an Apache server or whether it's a Microsoft server. So that I can find out from banner grabbing. I'll send a simple request to the server, and the response I will analyze. I'll see, okay, this is the server technology that is being used. Now I have some more information and I can narrow down my attacks based on what server I'm targeting. Verification is simply, okay, based on the result that you get, you try to verify it. Like, let's say my nmap scan returned that there is some there are some ports open, there are some services running. Now I can try to verify that by connecting to those services. So that's simply what verification means. Port checking is simply, you know, similar to verification. You are checking what ports are open and you are trying to connect to them. RFC, okay, RFC is not something that should be mentioned here because it's not relevant. And RFC has two different meanings: a request for comments, which is a publication which specifies the protocols, and one is remote function calls or remote procedure calls, which again are not relevant here. And okay, the last thing they mentioned is notepad or some tool to write down what information you found. Now we talk about exploitation. and types of attacks. Okay, so one is remote attack. So you are remotely attacking, or let's say I'm sitting at home, I'm attacking a remote system somewhere over the internet, located in some other continent, some other country. That would be a remote attack. Client side attack. Now, if I'm talking about an application, a web application, let's say, that will have two aspects, the client side and the server side. Client side is the portion that is visible to me as a user, which I can interact with, and the server side is what is on the back end, or the server that is present, which I'm trying to, or sorry, whichever organization I'm trying to attack. So the server for that. So it's also known as front end and back end. So front end will be your client side part of the application, which is visible to users and which they can interact with. Now, if I'm trying to attack an application, okay, I could try to just focus on the client side part of it. So just try to use vulnerabilities within the client side application and just attack. Through that, I can attack the application. Now this will become clearer if you go for web penetration testing, web application penetration testing, because this is more relevant there. Blind side attack. Okay, there is no particular category of attack known as blind side attack. So this is wrong. There is a particular vulnerability known as the blind side vulnerability, but this is not an attack. Social engineering. We've talked about this already about social engineering. Then there's something known as a fuzzing attack or a denial of service. Now, in a fuzzing attack, what you do is you keep providing random inputs to the application that you're trying to attack, and you are trying to see whether any particular input is going to crash the application or not. And in a denial of service, again, you're trying to crash the application, but here you're using a different approach. What you do now is you send a lot of requests, or if you're performing a distributed denial of service, then you use a lot of different systems to send a lot of different requests or overwhelm the application or the server that you're attacking in order to crash it. So that is a denial of service attack. Then you have man in the middle attacks. Now, man in the middle is a kind of attack that is more, you could say, tricky to perform than the other ones, because in this kind of attack, what you do is you try to get into the middle of a, an ongoing communication. So let's say there are two parties communicating online, and you try to get into the middle of that. You try to intercept, you try to sniff whatever they are saying. Now, again, the tools that are used in exploitation. One of the tools is Metasploit, and it is a very essential tool in any penetration tester's toolkit because it makes your work a lot easier. So, Metasploit is a very helpful tool, and Armitage that's mentioned here. That's just a user interface for Metasploit. Then, of course, you could use the old school way of doing things, manually compile an exploit and let it run on your target. Then they mention SE toolkit or social engineering toolkit, which as the name suggests, is used in social engineering, but it is somewhat, it's somewhat old, and I think there are much better tools available if you want to perform social engineering. Then you have Cobalt Strike. Again, it's a very important or a very popular tool in penetration testing. Denial of service attacks. Okay, I wouldn't say it's a tool of the trade, but it's a kind of attack. Google can be used if you are, this is mostly done by black hats to try and use Google dorking to find vulnerable websites which they might be able to attack. Or let's say, as a penetration tester, you try to figure out whether any subdomain that belongs to your target, whether it might be vulnerable or
So,
not. Yes.
sir, in the industry, whether they will use only tools or they'll be writing scripts and all those things.
You can write scripts as well according to your usage, whatever you prefer. Like, see, in penetration testing, you cannot predict what kind of situation you will be in. You'll only find that out once you start your process. So if you need
Okay.
to write a script, you write a script. If you don't, then don't, because your purpose is to be as efficient as possible. So if you are able to work without having to write a script, very well. But if you do find yourself in a situation that you need to write scripts, then by all means do that.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Now let's talk about post exploitations after you have hacked into the system. So the things that you do, or the things that you can do now, include trying to maintain hidden access to the system. So you could try to install a backdoor onto the system that will allow you to access it whenever you'd like in the future without having to go through all the different phases again. Use one compromised system to leverage others. So if you are within a network and you are able to hack one system, you can try and use this system to hack into other systems on the same network. Cover your footprints, cover your tracks. So after you are done, after you've finished, you try to delete any evidence of your presence on that system. So if you uploaded anything, if you modified anything, okay, you have to restore it to back to the original state. You may also have to modify some log files within the system. And basically, it should not be, it should not be visible or should not be evident to the owner of the system that you were in their system or that you had hacked into the system. And since this is a penetration test that we are talking about, so we need to have some form of documentation. So we capture some evidence for proof of access so that you can mention that in your report to the client. And of course, documenting your process. Okay, this will come at the end in the reporting part. Okay, now the last thing is what to include in a report. Now there are a lot of tools that are mentioned here like Armitage, Nmap, Nessus, OpenVAS, and it says exporting from these tools. So these tools also have reporting systems, so they can generate reports based on the results that they found. Okay, now
Sir, is there any specific pattern to write the report?
specific pattern. Now there are
Uh,
some guidelines out there, but every organization, every company, has a different way of doing that. There is no fixed
okay.
pattern, okay, that you have to do this or you have to write it this way. There's no fixed pattern for it,
Okay.
but there are a lot of sample reports available online. I'll go through that as well at the end. And okay, I'll show you that as well. Don't worry.
Sir, bug bounty report and pen testing report are same or it will be different?
It will be different.
Okay.
Because in a bug bounty, you are just covering one vulnerability that you found. In a penetration testing, your report will be much more thorough. Of course, it will be encompassing a lot of, actually, a wider range of devices, a wider range of issues. So, of course, those reports will be different in their nature and, of course, in their size. Now, in the report, you can include the proof of access, which basically it's a proof of how you were able to access that system. So the kind of techniques that you used, how you were able to hack, all that would come here. Then the next thing is include list of fixes. So how you can fix that vulnerability or how you can prevent that system from being accessed further. That would be in the list of fixes, and of course techniques to avoid further access. Provide proof that you no longer have active access to the system. So that is also important because they when they hire you, of course, after you do your work, you have to make sure that you are no longer accessing any of their systems. You don't have access to their networks or their resources after the attack is done, or that you're not holding on to any of their company's internal sensitive data that you might have come across during the attack.
Okay.
Okay, so that is also important. And now these tools that I mentioned, this that is mentioned here, Armitage, Nmap, and NSS. So they have their own report generation systems based on the results that they get, but you should not submit that as your final report. Okay, you can use that as part of your report, but don't submit an automated or a tool generated report as your final penetration test report. And the final tasks after you're done with everything else. So you present the report to your client, offer assistance in patching those issues, training employees to raise awareness about issues like social engineering or phishing, or other ways in which they could be hacked, offer assistance in policy management, so making more secure policies and stuff. And this would be, you would charge extra for this. Final assessment of the network. So one final assessment, like you checking whether everything is fine, that you haven't messed anything up, you are not able to access the network any longer. Schedule a regular audit. So now what happens is it's recommended that you get a regular penetration test done periodically, and this is also mandated by a lot of compliance requirements that you need to have at least one test done in every 3 months or every 6 months or every year. Encrypt your reports, because basically encrypt your reports here means that ensure that your reports are only available to you and your client, because this report is a very sensitive piece of document, because it considers sensitive details about the organization security flaws and stuff. So they should not be able to reach anyone who is not you or the client.
Okay.
And again, that's it. Move on to the next audit. So as far as theory is concerned, that's it for our penetration testing course. We're not going to focus on more theory. Now, do you have any questions from this so far?
Sir, what are the machine we need to download? Means VM.
The VMs that you will need to download, I'll tell you as we begin each VM. The first one that I'll be doing is, okay, we'll start simple. We'll start with Metasploitable.
Okay.
Okay, so you download that Metasploitable 2, install it on your virtual box
I
or
have.
VMware. Okay,
I
you have
have.
it. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
good. So we'll be starting with that, and okay, I think by tomorrow I'll begin with it. Today there are a few tools that I would like to look at first. For that, I'll go to my Linux machine. Just one moment.
Totally, how many machines we will be working on in this course?
Total, I think about 4 or 5.
Okay.
I mean, it could change if I find something else that I think is relevant. But for now, that's the number. Okay, so in our Linux, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a few tools here, and I'll be talking about a few important ones. The first one is Nmap, and okay, you are familiar with Nmap, but there's no point in memorizing all of this stuff, the scan techniques and all. With practice, it will gradually become easier for you to remember everything. Now, Nmap can be used for host discovery, so you can use it for ping scans, ping sweeps, or just scans in general. Port scanning, vulnerability scanning, a lot of different kind of scans you can run. And there are some other tools which are specifically for web applications if you're targeting a website. So for that you have there is this tool known as Sublister. Okay, so I haven't specified any domain, so it's giving me an error. But this tool is used to find subdomains for a particular domain belonging to a particular domain. So let's say Sublister -d for the domain. Let's say I want to find domains related to Twitter. Okay, Twitter is a popular website. Let's see what we can find.
Sir, you will provide any material to study, sir? Or
See, this is like I mentioned, it's mostly just practical stuff. After today, I'll not touch any theory.
okay,
So,
okay,
okay, this theory, whatever we had, that was done in ethical hacking.
okay.
Okay, I think it got stuck on a particular tool, but it might
Sir,
work.
will we do report also, sir, in this course? Final report.
Reports, like you won't be writing reports, but I'll show you reports like the format in general
Okay,
and what all you can include in them.
okay,
Because the rest, like writing a report, you can do on by yourself once you see how it is done.
Okay.
Right. Let's try this again, maybe. Okay, instead of Twitter, let's see what we can find about Google. Twitter is a very large domain and it has a lot of subdomains.
I think they are blocking our request.
Yeah, it says VirusTotal is blocking our request, right? But the other tools should work. It it searches for subdomains for a particular domain and different search engines and different websites. So if one of them is blocking, still the others should be giving results. Okay, so we have our results here. There are, okay, total unique subdomains found 37,231. Now, most of these would probably not be servers that you would be able to access. A lot of these look like just proxies. But when you're targeting a domain using sublister to find out its subdomains would be helpful, since you can target a subdomain and through that you can maybe find a way into other devices or into other subdomains of that particular domain.
Sir, in information gathering part, if you get a private IP, then it's useless right now.
Yeah, private IP, because a private IP cannot be routed over the internet.
Hello?
Yes, yes. Yeah. Am I not audible? Hello?
Yeah, now you are audible.
Audible. Okay. See, a private IP cannot be routed over the internet. So
That
you
will be
cannot really,
useless.
yeah, it's useless.
Okay.
Because see, private IP, if there is a device on your network, okay, I'm just going to, if there is a device on your network, if you have, or if there are
Mhm.
multiple devices on a network within the organization, then definitely if they are all connected, then they will have a private IP. Every device will
Yeah.
have its own private IP.
Mhm.
But from the outside, there is nothing you can do about that. Nothing you can do with a private IP. Okay, so that's the thing.
Sir, I done a Nmap scan on my phone, and
Okay.
it just shown me a closed port, but ports are accessible in my phone. Do you know what is the reason Nmap shown all ports are closed?
What kind of scan did you run? Like just normal, or did you specify
No,
any?
no, I done script scan, normal and advanced also.
Okay,
All type of scan, but same result.
it's showing that the ports are closed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, Like
If firewall is there, it will show filter now, sir.
it will
But it
show
was
filter.
not.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, but it was not showing filter. It was showing directly closed.
it was showing closed. Okay,
Yeah.
so now one thing would be if there was some kind of uh, let's say anti-malware or antivirus, some kind of protection tool installed in our system which is blocking scans.
Okay.
One situation could be that, or in some situations what happens is that when you run a scan, the services running on those ports might not be able to appropriately respond to a scan probe that nmap is sending out. So
Okay.
even in some cases, if it is open, the result that nmap gets might lead it to think that the port is closed.
Okay. Okay.
Try doing it for all ports. Let's see what you get in that case. Like by default, if you don't specify anything, it is only going to work on the 1,000 most common ports.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, try for all ports. Let's see what you get.
I tried all combination everything, but same result.
All combinations. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
like you even tried all ports, like all 65,000 ports.
yeah, yeah. 65,000 port. Many commands I used, like
Okay.
no ping and many things. Even I used scripts also, sir, but the same problem.
Scripts. Okay, scripts won't help if it's always showing closed ports anyway.
Okay. I tested on a physically Android phone actually.
Android, yeah, that's it's actually a common behavior in an Android phone. To not get any results or any conclusive results from an Android phone scan, because most likely it's not really listening on any particular ports. So
Okay.
in a lot of cases, you'll either see closed or filtered ports.
Okay.
Now, anything else?
Sir, can you just list the machine because 2 days after my pack will be over, so that I can download all those machines.
You can download the machines. Okay, I'll mention that in the chat towards the end of the session. Okay.
Okay, sir. No.
So now you're talking about the tools. So sublister is going to be used for
Subdomains.
this subdomains. Yeah. Now let's say I want to scan for. I'm only scanning for a web server. I'm only scanning a web application. In that case, rather than Nmap to scan a web application, I could use something like Nikto. Okay, there's a tool for scanning websites. Now I haven't, of course, specified any domain. Nikto hyphen h, and let's say we use this scanme.nmap.org, which is Nmap's special domain that they have made only for practice purposes. So you can run Nmap scans on this domain as well. You can try to run other scans, but just don't overload it with too much stuff at one time. Okay, so this is going to show me some relevant information about a web server. So the first thing it tells me is the IP and the host name. Of course, I specified the host name already. Port is 80. Start time, and the server is, this is the server being used on that system. And then a few things about the HTTP headers that it gets in the response. And it has its own database. Okay, not its own database. Okay, it uses OSVDB, or open source vulnerability database, and it will try to figure out if any vulnerabilities from that database are present on this domain or not. But it can actually take a long time to, you know, go through that process. So I'm just going to stop it for now. It can take a long time for that, so I'm not going through the whole thing. Now there are also tools which are for specific purposes, like let's say you want to, like there was sublister that was specifically for listing subdomains. Then you have a tool for brute forcing the different web pages available on a domain. So the tool that can be used for that is derb, or directory buster, whatever you want to call it. I think just derb is fine. So the syntax is derb.
What is the use of this tool, sir?
Hmm?
What is the use of this dir?
This tool will help you figure out the different web pages uh, that are available on a website. See,
Like
otherwise,
subdomain or
no, not subdomain, web pages, different files and
okay, okay,
directories available on a
okay,
website.
files. Okay, okay.
So, see, otherwise, see, if you have a website that you are trying to scan, a website that you're trying to get more information regarding, you'd have to browse the entire thing, and even then, there might be a lot of web pages that you miss out. So if you want to get a list of everything that's available there, you can use a tool like this, like Derb is what
Okay.
I'm trying to say. Okay. Now make sure again that since we are not actually testing any domain, don't run this on a legitimate website. Okay, because you cannot do any of this kind of thing unless you have explicit permission to perform this
Okay,
kind
sir.
of penetration test. Okay, so don't run tools like Derb on any domain, not even on scanme.nmap.com, because brute forcing is something that can overwhelm a server. So, okay, don't try this on a real website on the machines that we use for this course. Of course, you can use that however you like, but make sure you don't use this on an actual website. Now, okay, so we'll continue in the next session. We'll continue our discussion about tools and okay, regarding what machine we are going to start with. The first one I've already told you is going to be Metasploitable, Metasploitable 2. So, do you both have that installed on your system?
I have Metas portable.
Okay, and what about you?
Yes, I have Kali installed. In fact, Kali is available.
You have Kali installed, but for this, we'll also need to download other machines that
Oh,
will
Metasploiter machine. Yes, that I have.
Metasploitable. Okay, and in case you don't have, I also provide the link in case there's an issue with your current installation. Just a moment.
Next machine, sir.
Yeah, just I'm giving you the link in chat for Metasploitable 2 first in case.
I just turn off recording, sir. I think it's enough.
Now the next machine that I'll do after this, after